so much, Liz. Let's get started. Today, we have a wonderful session that's going to be brought to you by Tim Bowie, CPBC. Tim is a business coach, and Tim says that if you're an expert in business, I'm the professional helping bring out the best of you to work on your business and thrive. Tim has a wonderful background. He has been in the business world for many, many years. He's a dedicated professional with 40 years of experience in sales and consulting, and at some of the most esteemed companies in the world, including IBM, Dell, EMC, and Lenovo. As a certified professional business coach, Tim specializes in guiding growth-minded entrepreneurs, corporate leaders, and high-potential performers. You are in luck today because Tim is going to bring to you a wonderful presentation about adaptability. Thank you so much.
Afternoon. Thank you, Thomasina and Liz. I appreciate the wonderful introduction. As I stated, my name is Tim Bowie. Recently, I made a capital investment in a newly patented technology and process that measures how individuals and organizations adapt to the change that we're in the midst of. I'm going to take you through that today because adaptability is your new superpower. Do you realize 15 years ago, in the heart of New York City, a medallion for a taxi was about $1 million, give or take. And along comes this company called Uber. We've all heard of them at this point, but it was new. And the driver scoffed at it and said, "Who's going to use an app and have a stranger pick them up in a car?" Well, guess what? 15 years later, that medallion that used to be $1 million is now worth about 10% of that, approximately $100,000 to get your medallion. So the lesson is change doesn't wait for us to be comfortable and ready. The question is, how do you respond when the world around you changes faster than you planned? That's what adaptability is about. Another example, we've all heard of Kodak. We've all used Kodak, more than likely, unless you're really young, then maybe not. In 1975, Kodak actually invented the first digital camera. They literally had the future in their hands, but leadership put it on the shelf. Why? Because it was going to affect their film business. So they went from a market cap in 1996 of $31 billion to bankruptcy in 2012. And guess how much they're worth today? Not 5 billion, only $500 million. They failed because they couldn't adapt. It wasn't that they didn't see the change coming. And that's, why today adaptability is the #1 skill that employers are looking for. And here's something that we can all relate to. Wow, I've got an 8-week timeline to get this project done. Fantastic. Oh, manager just dropped a bomb on us, or customer. I need it in 4 weeks now. Okay, so you can resist the change, you can be upset about it, or you can embrace the change. So it isn't about talent or intelligence. It's about adaptability. And that's what I want to explore with you today. We're living in a time that the fastest change in era in human history. As a matter of fact, change is never going to be any slower than it is today. Tomorrow's change is faster than today. What we're in the middle of and experiencing is, in the next 10 years, we're going to see as much change as us and our grandparents have seen in the last 100 years. And we'll explore today why that matters. There's all kinds of things going on, whether it's the change in technology that's going faster than we can keep up with, workplaces are shifting, remote, hybrid, gig economy, back to the office, 5 generations in the workforce. It creates a lot of stress on us humans in order to be able to deal with all this chaos and all this constant change. But there's some help around the corner. Just stick with me here. One of the things that really caught my attention when I was dealing with learning about adaptability and change was this last one. It really caught my attention. I'm at the end of the baby boomer generation today, and for the last 5 years or so, and for the next 15, 10,000 people a day are turning 65 years old and retiring, presumably. Of that generation, of the baby boomer generation, they own 40% of all small businesses. Of that, we expect about 10 million of those, this is from the SBA, will transition by 2029 or even by 2035. Pick a number. There's a huge wealth transition coming and business transition coming, and we're going to need to be part of it. We are going to be part of it, whether we like it or not. Last week, I was at a summit with the founders of AQAI, Ross Thornley and Mike Raven, and we were talking about uncertainty. If you look on this graph, it talks about the COVID compact and how that really accelerated change. But one thing was different between then and now. With COVID, we kind of felt like, okay, there's going to be an end to this at some point, even though we didn't know when it was. But what's changed today is the rate of change has even increased just in that last 5 years. And what is normal today is uncertainty. That's what we're living in, uncertain times, constantly. But that's okay. Let's work through it together. Adaptability is your ability and your behaviors that help you deal with that uncertainty and deal with new information. Adaptability quotient is a way to measure those abilities, your characteristics, and perhaps a really important one is environmental factors. And I'll go into that a little bit more in a couple slides. Let's pause and do a quick self-assessment. So I want you to rate yourself on these 5 categories, 1 to 5, 5 being the best. Just don't think about it much. Just the first number that comes to your head, just write it down or keep it in your mind. It's simple. So do you adapt quickly when priorities change? Do you stay calm under uncertainty? Do you seek out new ideas regularly? Can you change your approach when needed easily? And can you bounce back or bounce forward from setbacks? Okay, so think about your number. And now, where's your score? Are you highly adaptable in the 21 to 25 range? This is totally scientific. Haha, wink, wink, nod, nod. Or are you moderately adaptable? Or are you 15 or less and you're at more risk and you need to pick up the phone and call me right now so I can help you? So AQAI and adaptability, we measure who adapts and why, how and to what degree someone adapts, and when does someone adapt and how quickly. That's the environmental stuff that I'll be talking more about. So all this adaptability works for an individual, works for an organization, but let's talk about some potential use cases where we can improve, where AQ is being used to improve and support. Change management, that's a really big one. There's organizations, as most of you probably know, that just focus on change management. This can dovetail very nicely into that. Leadership development. I was just working with a CEO yesterday who, well, I'll save that story for a minute, but he's implementing new leadership in his organization, a new senior leadership team and a new board. And he's very interested in this, and I'll share a little bit more about that in just a moment. Boosting employee retention. Because you're investing in the employee, you're helping them with the stressors that's going on in their life. Digital transformation. Again, the AQAI, the adaptability, helps prepare people for the changes and chaos that's going on around them, and more. Here's a few articles. I research these every month, and adaptability is happening everywhere. It's a great headliner. You can see here at Indeed. So for job skills, adaptability is there. Here from Inc., adaptability is the key to success in an evolving market. All of our markets are either evolving or going away. LinkedIn, they've been supporting adaptability and headlining that as the most sought after skill for about 5 or 6 years now. And if you get this deck, here's the links to those. So you're familiar with IQ and EQ. These have been around for decades. Well, we're the new evolution of that, if you will, as times change. So adaptability quotient measures the abilities, characteristics, and environmental factors to gauge how you effectively respond to uncertainty. So the great thing about adaptability, it's not a fixed trait like you might find in some of the other psychometrics. It is one that actually can be strengthened. What we measure and provide clarity on is what are your strengths in adaptability and what are your growth areas. And not every organization needs everybody to be super adaptable. It's okay to be less adaptable and know that you can work on that, but that also provides some foundation and consistency to some processes or different parts of the organization. So let's dive into what we measure. And I'm not going real deep on this because of time and just attention. So the ACE model is what we measure: abilities, character, and environment. We have 15 subdimensions under here. I'm just listing a few of them, like grit and resilience and unlearn. These are key abilities that we all have to some degree or another. Some of our characteristics are like hope. I'm a very high hope person. Hope, by the way, if you are high in hope, it raises all dimensions up to some correlation, 1 degree or another. Motivation style. Do you play to protect or do you play to win? And can you change? And then this one, this is what the CEO was very interested in yesterday that I was speaking with, because he walked into an organization. He came in as a change agent, came into an organization that has very low trust. So I would expect, if we were to measure them, that they would have low company support and low team support. Now, this is more than just trust, but I think that's an indicator on that spectrum. And that's one of the things he was very interested in, just as an example. Okay, now let me help you practice your adaptability. And I'm calling this a 3-minute reframe. And you can use this for more than just the example that I have here. You can use this process in a lot of different scenarios. That's why I wanted to give you this idea. So back to our deadline. You've got this important deadline. We all have had them, and all of a sudden it's moved up by a week. What are you going to do? How are you going to react to that? Okay, write down first your reaction to the change. Just give it some quick thoughts. This isn't a take action now. This is just to listen to this process. And then the real key here is, how else could I see this? Find 2 different perspectives on how else could you see this new change requirement, and then choose the most resourceful perspective. What this is in the adaptability measurement key is emotional or mental flexibility. So it gives you a chance to think differently than you normally would. Another 2 would be emotional range and work stress. But again, in the interest of time, I'm skimming over this. Happy to go deeper, and there'll be some things at the end that you can engage with me on if you care to do that. Let's talk about additional use cases, because this stuff is happening everywhere. It applies everywhere. Navigating disruption, cultural integration, multi-generational integration. I think I mentioned that one earlier. Operational alignment, enhance well-being. I need to pause on this one for a minute, because this is one that really got my attention when I started investigating into AQAI and this movement that we're on to help 100 million people by 2030 become more adaptable. because there's so many people in so many different industries that are burning out. And so many companies don't address the well-being. Well, by implementing this AQAI, we can actually measure areas and find out where people have low well-being, who are close to burnout, who maybe are thinking about leaving, who are not engaged. If we can get a measurement, then we have something to start working on and start correcting. There's a lot of data that can come out of these assessments. Okay, so if you're ready to take action and want to take action, this is from an organizational standpoint. Here's a couple opportunities. At AQAI, we're doing a global research study, and there's two different ways to jump into that. If you don't want to spend any money to do that, we will accept you into our global research study with up to 20 participants, and you'll get some limited information back. It's not a full-on engagement, but it's a very, very good starting point. Or if you've got money to invest and a real challenge to solve for, you can be part of our impact group, and we're going to have totally live engagement. We're going all in with you in working to solve this and provide information for you. And if you have something else, I'm happy to consider a case study at reduced rates and take on whatever your project is that we can work through. And I've put a couple examples out there. If you've got a business transition or you're part of an M&A on either side of that at any point in time, this is very, very effective in those scenarios. Or if you're struggling with innovation, or if there's transformation going on or something else.